Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me. I'm going to talk about TerraPay. What we built is over the last 9 years, built a cross-border infrastructure for cross-border money movement, focusing on business to business and consumer transactions. We're right now, managing close to around 7.5 billion bank accounts, 3.75 billion mobile wallets across 135 plus countries. In general, if you look at wallets and digital wallets, it is a way of life. Some of the data and analysis would show is there will be more digital wallets than bank accounts and cards in the world. Which means if you see how the demographics of how consumers are today, you will see the younger generation today want to use the mobile phone for everything, including financial payments. There is, if you were to speak to, and you're too young to be having kids who are older enough, but I have kids and they have never been to a bank. They use everything on the phone. So digital wallets is the way to go as we go in the future. And for me, I see this trend not just in a significant kind of continent, but if you look at Latin America, you look at the US, you look at Europe, you look at Africa, of course, and you look at Asia. That's where the growth for digital wallets in general is coming through.
Yeah.
So if you zoom out, today, what consumers are really looking at is how can I use the same payment experience, which I do domestically, can I use the same experience globally? Yeah. So for example, if you are in the Netherlands today, you have the ideal network here, but it works only in the Netherlands. Yeah. So if you were to go outside of the Netherlands, you go to Africa, how does that same experience, replicate in those markets? To me, that is interoperability. And wallets actually help build that interoperability. So think about it, a Chinese consumer traveling to the US or an African consumer traveling to Latin America or traveling to Europe. How can they use their same instrument which they use domestically, which is the mobile wallet, and have the same experience using at a POS terminal here? They don't need to have a different payment method, which means now the adoption and the learning experience of telling, listen, domestically you use this way of transacting, but when you go international, you don't have to do that. And the correlation to that is you use a phone. When you go international, do you have a different experience? You just switch on your phone and your phone works because of interoperability. So what you do in the domestic market, it works in the cross-border market. So the mobile and the mobile experience is what really drives whole interoperability. And some of our founders actually came from the telecom industry. So we had that mindset of how if a phone or an SMS can be interoperable, why can't money? It's a fascinating question. We started looking at it in 2023 when we said, again, interoperability. Today, banks send money to banks using the SWIFT infrastructure or various infrastructure, but they send predominantly to banks. Their consumers are evolving now, and they are looking for alternative means of money movement, which is faster, which is inclusive, which is cost effective. So what we did was, late 2023, we started looking at this gap, and we said is, why don't we go to SWIFT and we actually forge a collaborative partnership. And what we have today over the last infrastructure which has been built with SWIFT is an ability for all the SWIFT members in the world. So there are like 13,000 plus SWIFT members, banks and all that put together. They now have an ability at a switch of a button to now send a transaction over an MT103, which is the SWIFT messaging format or a PAX messaging format, and send transactions now to a mobile wallet. without having to do any integration, any effort, and just use the Swift messaging format. This is, to me, I would call it transformational. The world is going to look completely different. I see it in the next few years because of that collaboration. Because Swift, think about it, is the most trusted infrastructure in the world, which is giving them ammunition to now send a different transaction, which the banks would love to offer it to their consumers. I know it's not just about wallet interoperability. And when we started the company, we learned two things. One was, cross-border money movement is a business of compliance, and liquidity is actually not a business of technology. You manage compliance and regulatory positions really well, and you manage liquidity really well, you have a great infrastructure. So we focused on that, and that's where, if you see our infrastructure, when we speak about, yes, we connect to 151 countries. We speak about connecting to 7.5 billion bank accounts and 3.575 billion mobile wallets. But the reason we are able to do this is because we are regulated like a banking infrastructure, a money movement infrastructure by the banking regulator in 31 countries. That is what the core of the TerraPay infrastructure is. So a lot of people don't want to talk compliance because it's boring, but boring is the real way of doing things. You do every transaction and you do it the right, and you have a great infrastructure. You can't say, I will do some transactions in a particular way. Every transaction has to be compliant, which means you need to build that regulatory rigor, that ethos, and the culture within the organization. To us, as founders, that is the biggest kind of position we try to push, to make regulatory positions as the cultural business within TerraPay. So, one thing which we looked at was, we will never touch cash. Yeah. So we believed in the digital ecosystem. What will really be instrumental to take this digital leap, make it bigger, is how, with collaborative approaches, we look at interoperability, we look at global standards of how messages can be done in a single format, and done in a way where it is always compliant. Real-time payments, everybody talks about it. Yeah, and I think if a WhatsApp can be delivered instantly, why not money? Yeah, so it's that kind of a thing. So it is core to what we are doing. But if you really ask me where we will see ourselves, I don't know what the payment method is going to come out. There could be stable coins, there could be better way. What we will focus on is digital, being 100% compliant, and make the transaction as affordable as it can. And it could be across multiple channels, be it a Swift, be it a bank transaction, be it a mobile wallet transaction. It doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter how the transaction is coming out and how the transaction is being delivered. It has to be on the three pillars: compliance, instant, and has to be ubiquitous. So that's how I see it.